Angelic teaching level 4, session number 4. Today we're going to be working on a very specific topic. Today we're going to talk about the risks, or at least some of them. All right? So obviously, as I'm implementing those different concepts and bringing that to you, we're definitely working on protection energies today, right? So there is obviously this frequency around you that you start feeling coming from everywhere around you, and it's a protective energy, okay? I will progressively increase this energy and reinforce your auric field around you as I talk to you about those different subjects, okay? You can also set your intention in asking for guidance and protection and increasing your strength in the protection, right? So we're transferring what we've been learning in the former session in regards to strength, and we're using the strength in order to work on one specific aspect of the healing. Of course, the stack of strength that we've been building keeps increasing and increasing with time, right? It's not something that we use and then it gets depleted. It keeps getting stronger and stronger as time goes by as well. All right. So when you do energy work, the first category of people that are going to come towards you is the stalkers, right? So we definitely need to talk about that. People who are going to like what you're doing and at the same time are going to be sticking all the time and not letting that go. That can be definitely very annoying, and you definitely want to be square and very grounded about that and being very aware of who is. You will feel when this happens by feeling annoyed and uncomfortable with their presence, and just be honest with them and just go towards them and tell them the truth, that you feel that it's time for them to be focusing on something else, and you encourage them of finding other people to look into. You probably also could offer them different topics to look into, things like that, right? They can be stalking you because they are interested in you in one way or another, or definitely linked to your gifts, okay? You'll definitely have to be careful about the ones who start by, I just have one question. Could you just help me on that thing? And the first right thing to do is to say, oh, sure, I'm definitely looking into that. I would definitely love to do that. Please book a session. I've got Thursdays or whatever, Wednesday available. Which day would you like best to see me? One session is that much for that much time. That way it limits the interaction, and as well it puts you back into the position where you're there to deliver a service and you're not there because you've got time to spare, right? So you're definitely there to help, and at the same time you want to value your work, okay? Of course, when they start asking one question, the question will go for at least 15 minutes, and then they usually have another question, because that leads to another more topics to develop. Now, that's one aspect. Now, you're going to have the skeptics. That's another category. The skeptics are the ones who do not believe in your work or are threatened by your work. So that's very important, because most of the time they will not tell you that they are threatened by your work. They just don't know what it is, and of course their reaction can be very violent. So for those, again, best way to deal with it is to go with truth. And as soon as you find one person be skeptical, just go towards this thought and towards this person or this interaction, and just say, well, thank you for being honest. Um, Obviously, I do understand that it is something new, it's a new area, and that you're not much familiar with this. It can be difficult, sometimes challenging to accept that there are other things that we had no idea of, and they still exist. And depending on your beliefs, well, I do understand that you might not feel into believing it's possible or true. So I do respect that, and please do respect my work as well. I encourage you of moving towards something else, right? By acknowledging that this person might not be either interested in it or might be having fears, and respecting those choices and those beliefs of believing it or not, in it or not, that allows you to put words on it and for this person to be okay with it, right? So again, use your intuitions to tap into the real reasons why this person might be skeptical, and you don't have to go in details, just acknowledge the different facts, all right? That helps to lower down the pressure and for this person to feel as well, acknowledge, I guess. Now, that's for the physical aspect. Now, we talked about as well that you need to be respecting your work, and for that to allow yourself brackets where you'll be working and not doing things for free. The family, especially, it's very, very difficult. Family and friends, at the start, you obviously want to be demonstrating your gifts, your talents, your abilities. You want to be able to share, you want to help, you want to discover as well, experiment, all of those and above. And you wish to be able to find guinea pigs, right? So guinea pigs, that's easy. You pick them up among your friends, your relatives. Some do accept to see you evolving and getting new skills and talents. Some might not that open to it, right? That comes from the fact that basically when you know one person, you kind of like to have this person sticking to the same label and not having to put different labels or having to change the label all the time, right? It's easier to put one person into one drawer and to put them into category. So suddenly when the butcher comes up and tells you that he becomes an amazing hard rock singer, well, it comes up difficult to trust that he's got those skills in him as well, right? And it works for many different areas, especially when we talk about psychics. Well, that's definitely a very challenging topic. All right, now the next thing is, what about the people that you work with? Or if you've got another job beside it, is this going to infringe on the quality, on how people perceive your work? And in which way? Is it going to be in a good way or not such good way? Well, it really depends on what you wish to do with your gifts, your talents, and how you want to interact with that. And that's your own choice. That's your own choice. I've seen lawyers being psychics and healers and spending all their life not talking at any person about their gifts. And always, for the ones that they would share this with, they would be very cautious and taking a lot of precautions with that. Telling them, well, I'm doing this and I don't want it to be spread. So again, that's your choice, your calling. I've seen on the other aspect, people just embracing both. I've seen other people taking another label, another name, another type of category, introducing themselves as a second job as a counselor, instead of saying that they are psychic or healers, right? I made the choice of interacting as a psychic and being able to do this Um, it's a choice. It's a choice. I embrace that choice that allows me to be, you've got positive aspects as well. You are able to just state things by saying that you received the message. And that gives credibility as well related to the previous experiences that you had in that field. Now, we briefly describe in some different other videos, recordings, about how to deal with other psychic forces and how to deal with that. Well, we definitely need to be talking about that here because it's also linked to the risks, right? One of those risks are psychic attacks. What is a psychic attack? A psychic attack is when one other person having abilities such as psychic abilities starts to come towards you psychically, wanted to harm you, intentionally or unintentionally. And you have different degrees of that. It can be just by pushing you away. It can be by setting different boundaries around them, like protections, kind of very protective protections. And also it can be for blocking you. It can be for diminishing your gifts and your abilities, your talents. So you will feel when one person, for example, is thinking of you, it becomes painful on your own body, for example. I've heard many people saying, well, they feel like they're being stinged by like a needle or something like that, or something like a mass impact on one of your chakras, depending where this person wants to act on you. Again, you're developing gifts and talents, and you made the decision to use them in order to help, to heal, for people to grow in the best way possible, going towards their gifts and talents and their life purpose and mission. Some people use their gifts and talents for other purposes and not for such great mission. That's another aspect of it. How to deal with that? Well, first thing is to be centered, identifying what it is that's happening to you. So I will definitely use the tool of the white box. Remember, being surrounded all around you by this white aura first, that you manifest, that you increase your strength of your aura after being centered on your crystal ball. And then visualizing and manifesting 6 different vortexes around you, creating a box, being in a room. And this room, the frequency will be out of time and space, both out of time and out of space. And then being protected by not only this invisible box from out of time and space, plus being surrounded by your own auric field of white energy, protecting you as well. You can bring in the room as well some of your guides or ascended masters or Archangel. Archangel Michael, for example, is very protective for that. And you visualize him as being one person present as well, just like you, in the same room, just standing still and waiting to help if needed. You then ask your guides to show you in that room in a safe condition all the things that you need to know about those perceptions, feelings, emotions that you feel uncomfortable with, to give you precisions on how those things play out, for you to understand how it works, and you keep asking your questions in order to find out how to solve those things, how to take care of that. Now, at one point you will have to make decisions on how to act and what to do about those psychic attacks. Either it's a mutual disrespect, or it's mutual not understanding, so you probably will have to talk to this person directly, or you can be avoiding it or blocking it. There are many different ways. I will let you being your own judge on what gradient of intensity you want to put into that. You also have other forces that can be acting upon you, and there are a lot of sorts. It starts with the beings, the spirits who passed away but are still roaming around and are not moving away. There are other forces, deeper forces, that are of different categories. We've been naming them already. They work in the underworld. And you also have beings like space worms. Yes, space worms, for example. When you do astral travel, and you basically can catch one of those worms if your auric field is not well protected enough and you encounter those different worms. Those are suckers who suck your life force, and you start to feel depleted, not knowing why. What also happens is if your auric field gets weaker, and you start to manifest the tears in it, linked to some emotional blockages that could happen towards you in your life, that weakens your auric field. At one point it breaches and it starts leaking. Well, the energy that's leaking obviously attracts some, like thieves, if you want, some forces, spirits who are going to feed themselves from that, because it's free energy, right? So in their mind they say, why not? And they will have the tendency of helping these tears to stay open, and definitely bring you towards environments where those emotions are going to be strong in order to increase the pain, for you to have this tear getting bigger and bigger, and for them to be able to suck more and more energies. Well, guess what? It might sound alarming to hear all those different things, and I do understand that. However, it's no more risks than having to travel barefoot in the sand, or to just cross the street, or to take an airplane, or the train, or a car. That's life. It's anything you do, whatever you want to do, even staying at home, has its risks. And you can't do anything without taking risks. With risk comes trust and faith, and knowing that everything will be good, and everything will sort it out by themselves at one point or another, and you will definitely receive some help. This help can come in through many different forms. You can be receiving help through your guides. You can be perceiving yourself having different challenges, and from them acknowledging them, identifying the sources with the white box, and then working things out. You also, and don't neglect them because they are very important, will meet other psychics along your path. Some of them that you know, some of them that just will pop up just in front of you and delivering a message, a warning, because they felt that they needed to come and interact with you. If those messages sound correct, because obviously you've got your free will in that, you're going to be able to tune into it, see if it feels right or not, and then from there being able to decide what you want to do. Obviously there will be always something or someone to help you, and do not hesitate about reaching out and asking for help and guidance when you feel like it on some subject or another. Each psychic healer has its own specialties. They are more tuned into some different fields than others, and I would definitely like for you to start having your network of people that you can rely on when something happens and you just need some help. Be sure that you do interact with those people, not only when you need them, but also because you want to keep a good relationship with them, right? Especially if they become friends, you don't want to use them for their friendship and using this as leverage for you to receive some help. So it has to be a well-balanced relationship, as always. One thing that I would like to come back and talk to is linked to sometimes having symptoms of other forces acting on you, right? It might be, I'm not talking about curse, but that could be included as well. Some forces acting on you in order to drain your energy and to put you down. Sometimes one person may be feeling hosting one being, one soul, and those beings not being yours and not being that positive. It might be some of those underground forces surrounding you and coming to challenge you. So it will definitely come towards you as feeling either dizzy. It can be almost seeing things through someone else's eyes, almost like perceiving yourself and your aura, and almost like changing and moving by itself, like someone was in you and was just looking left and right when your face is still. Having thoughts at the same time that do not belong to you, hearing voices that you don't recognize and don't seem right. Not being able to hear your guides or with less intensity. Also feeling a lot of pressure on your chest and feeling a little bit pukey sometimes. And almost feeling there is this thick fog around you and it's getting darker and heavier. You feel less positive and feeling a little bit depressed as well. So you do understand that any of those, any single symptoms that I described to you, manifestation, does not mean in itself that you are dealing with such beings or events. It's just that those different symptoms combine to your intuitions, and having different of those symptoms at once or very close in time with each other, those are the signs, right? Plus feeling depleted. So when you've got doubts, just feel free to ask someone that you can trust that is experienced in that field in order to help you with that, right? When you catch a virus or a flu, or you're not feeling great, you just go and see the doctor. Well, it's the same thing. Just go see a specialist who will be helping you with that. And if this person might not be able to help at one point, you will definitely recommend you someone that is best suited to help you with that. Okay? It's all about network, right? So definitely one person knows a few other ones that are great in that field, and words of mouth work, and there's always different ways of helping. All right? Good. Now that we've been talking about this, let's dig into the energy part and stronger energies as well in order to work on your protections. Okay? Look into my eyes. realize how important the strength is, the more strength you've got, the easier it gets. To create other form of energies that are linked to that, that are similar to that. You could also consider them as being almost like different families, right? Consider a frequency almost like a color, right? Imagine a color. We're talking, for example, of a green color. Then it's easier when you've got a stack of green to be putting either more green and getting a darker green, putting more yellow in it, adding other mixed color like an orange, or just going for plain color, just blue or yellow, whatever. It's about blending different types of colors in order to create your own unique brand, your own unique color. I like this analogy with energies and color, as it helps you to understand the interaction. That way, working with strength, for example, when you've got a stock of strength, see, the energy is that strong. Remember how to deal with that, right? The intensity. Good. When you suddenly focus on one specific energy, you might be receiving almost like too much light if you look at it directly, because it becomes brighter and brighter, right? Imagine that you open a door and you were in a corridor. There you go. I just did it again. You are in a corridor with no light, and you suddenly come in a room where the energy is very, very bright. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to have the same reaction. That's exactly what just happened. We've been stocking and creating these strength energies of ours in the former session. And as I was talking to you at the same time, I didn't take much caution, I was not cautious enough, and I just opened this place and tapped into that place where we've been stocking the strength energy, where we've been harvesting this strength energy. And guess what? I just opened the door 100% full on right away. And I got this blast of light coming into my eyes. Twice, I did it twice in a row. So how to prevent yourself from doing that? See, it's not such a big deal. It's like, it's like touching the pot that's too hot, and as soon as you touch it, you just release it. You don't get burned. You just feel that the energy was there, right? It's, I told you, there is always something to learn, all the time. So the more open you are to those energies, the more intense those energies are, then the more cautious you have to be handling them. And this is why it is very interesting to be working in that field, because as you increase your gifts and talents, comes more responsibilities as well. And yes, more risks. So you just have to be careful. How could I have prevented this from happening? Well, many different ways. One of them would have been to be asking my guides to be always there for me, and maybe I didn't do that properly at the beginning. The second thing is, well, just opening a parenthesis for that. Remember, that's a teaching class, so obviously I'm your guinea pig, and they kind of play with me, and in order to be recorded. So we've got things to talk about. Remember, it's not the first time that I use my own experience, my live recording experience, to be able to help you and to demonstrate how things work in the energy field, right? Closing the parenthesis. And now, yeah, having your guides always next to you definitely would have helped. Also, creating this field around me by increasing my aura and increasing its brightness before I do any action and I take any actions, that will have helped as well before I went and tapped into this chest of strength gathered energies being collected. I could have also, instead of being in the vision that I had was a corridor with no light before I opened the door of the strength. Well, what I could have done was definitely to increase the brightness of the corridor where I was by increasing the field of energy of it, and that way my eyes would have get used to the brightness first and then get into that place with the strength energy. And that's a very interesting concept as well, right? So remember that either you go from one state to another, right full on, and it's like pressing buttons, and that's what I just did. Or you go and create a SAS from wherever you are. Let's say that you visualize this as being a room. You open that room, you go to a corridor. This corridor is neutral, and then you just rise up the frequency of that corridor, change its color. You can be playing with that, and then from there you can go to another room. That concept is very, very, very interesting, okay? It helps you to basically almost like create a map of like almost like your house or a workplace, and you can just create anything you want. Imagine that you can reshape that at your own will, making rooms appearing, disappearing at will. Imagine it's like Lego parts. So you just plug and stick those different bits and pieces all at once, ding, bing, or just one after the other. And that way you create your own, let's call it a working environment or lab research center. It's like being able to work with different vortexes at the same time and having them being present in front of you visually. All right? It helps for you to have a map in front of you of what's happening and what you do and where you go, instead of just having buttons that you turn and you can tune into. So it's definitely another way of doing it. I like to be working as well with the depth. Imagine I'm working from here, or I work from here. See, it gives everything into perspective. By coming closer or coming further away, you just act and you can zoom on different things. Well, that's another thing that you can be working on with the map that you're working on with those different rooms. You can zoom in, zoom out, get in, get out. As you see, the deeper we get, the more complex it becomes, the more buttons you start to have to play with. It's like being the captain of your own plane, right? You just have to deal with a lot of different technologies, or either you just put everything in automatic pilot. And that's another way of doing it as well, by saying, well, I don't want to have to deal with all those different things. My guides just take control of everything, and I'm fine with that. The more experience you get, at one point you want to be taking care of those different settings, analyzing them, instead of having to just deliver content. It has its pros and cons for each technique, right? When you actually start, your guides basically teach you, tell you what to do, when to do it. You don't ask many questions at the start, you just do the things, and then they tell you why, and they explain you how. Progressively, you learn those different techniques, you implement them, and then you're able to either let them be in control and still you offering options or choices and making those decisions, or creating your own tools from the tools that you've been learning. It's both are very interesting, and I really like both techniques. At one point, obviously, those techniques, you're going to wish to share them the same way I'm sharing them with you now. That's another concept as well. Don't wait to teach. Teach right away. You learn something, you teach it. That's being a teacher. That's in your soul. If you feel this calling, that's great. Some people are doers. Some people are doers and teachers. Some people are going to ask for things to be done. I ask angels, archangels to do tasks for me when needed. I also like to teach, and I am a doer. I like all three aspects. Depending on the mood, depending on what needs to be done, I will switch to one to the other or blend all three when needed. That's when you deal with a team. Sometimes for specific topics, you'll have to deal with a lot of different parameters, a lot of different contacts in different worlds. And that's quite interesting and challenging at the same time. We'll talk about all of that. We've got plenty of time. I wish you all the best. Again, talk to you soon.